You're very welcome back to the show now. Have you noticed an influx of scam calls going around at the moment? Well, these fraudsters have become more and more advanced and are now using 083, 085 and 087 numbers to trick people into answering their automated calls. But what should you do if you answer? Well, I'm delighted now to be joined by Paul Delahunty, Information Security Officer with Stryve, who specialise in private cloud. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today. Paul, I'm exhausted from these calls. I'm sick of them.
Yeah, you're not alone. Even myself, in the last couple of weeks, and members of my family, friends, we've all been receiving them, multiple instances of them as well. So we're inundated with them at the moment. Yeah.
Because you don't expect people to have fraudsters to have your private mobile number, but I suppose off the back of the HSE hack, a lot of that more information is out there. It was sold on to criminal gangs. People have a certain amount of personal information, and of course they're going to try and scam people with that information. Now, first of all, how do you know if one of these calls is in fact a scam?
Well, I suppose there's a concept in information security that we use called zero trust. So you start off not trusting whoever calls up or whoever you're talking to, and once you start with that, I think you're going to be very, very difficult to actually hack. So a lot of the time with these scam calls, they try and put you under pressure. So they try and tell you, for example, well, look, your PPS number here, it's after being hacked, and you need to press 7 here to talk to somebody, or you need to click on this link, or you need to do something, you need to give over some information. But there'll usually be some bit of a push, something to put you under pressure, and that's a key kind of indicator. The other thing as well that you need to keep in your mind when you get these is, does this really make sense? Does it feel right? For example, I got a call about 3 or 4 weeks ago, purporting to be, it was an automated call purporting to be from the Inland Revenue in the UK. Now, straight away, I've never worked a day in my life in the UK where I had to pay tax, so straight away I knew, okay, there's something wrong with this. It just doesn't make sense. So that's they're the kind of telltale signs that you need to watch out for.
Yeah, no, it's not only calls I'm getting, and some of them are really obvious. It's an automated voicemail call with a very robotic or an American accent, actually, the last one I got saying, press 7 to change your PPS number and stuff like that. But I actually got text messages, and the only reason I knew, because you're saying trust nobody, was like, payment has gone from your account to Wanda. Please click on this link if you didn't send this money to Wanda. But it was actually from the same AIB, the proper AIB one that has been my verified code before. So if it wasn't such a weird name, I possibly would have clicked on it. And that's how sophisticated these people are getting. They're actually hacking trusted numbers as well. So it's a minefield at the moment.
And it's not even that they're actually hacking them, it's that they're using it as a mask.
Yeah.
So, we're getting used to this concept over the last number of years from email, where you get these emails in, it looks like, you mentioned AIB, I think, it looks like it's an AIB one, it looks like it's from the Revenue, it looks like it's from Bank of Ireland, but when you actually look at the email itself, it doesn't make sense. It's quite obviously not from that organisation. So now we've got to the stage where they're actually masking what they're, the phone numbers that they're actually calling from or sending text from, with legitimate numbers. I actually got called back twice this week from somebody saying that I missed a call from this number. Now, they probably were trying to be scammed by somebody who'd used my number as a mask.
Wow.
So it is starting to become quite sophisticated, and even at this stage, whatever about mobile numbers, you may start and think, okay, a mobile number, do I really trust it? But landline numbers are now being used as well, because landline numbers you're more inclined to trust because it physically is located somewhere and you can trace where it's located from. Yeah. So it is becoming quite tricky. Another thing to remember, if you get one of these calls in and they try and put you under pressure for whatever reason, say for example if it's from your bank, if you don't quite trust it, don't communicate in the channel with which they've contacted you. So if it's by text or by phone, there'll always be a number in the back of your bank card that you can trust, that you can call up and call them directly and say, look, I'm just checking, was this really from you?
Yeah.
And that way you're kind of protecting yourself. Zero trust.
Zero trust. And we have to be so suspicious, zero trust. So if someone on the phone say, right, what's your name there? I'll call you back in a few minutes. And if they go, oh, no, you can't call me back, this has to be done now, then you know it's a massive red flag.
It's a red flag.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. And they try in the emails. It's the same thing for so many years. They put you under a little bit of pressure. They say, well, if you don't act now, all your accounts could be locked out permanently. You know, your PPS number's been hacked. You need to contact us now. That's a telltale red flag. So what they want you to do, you see, they want you to make use of that basic instinct that humans have to trust, and they want you to kind of act before you've had time to think. Because if you take those 10 seconds to think about it really well, you know, you probably won't, they probably won't get away with what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So they're trying to push that human instinct. And it's hard to fight against the human instinct. And that's why for anyone who does get caught out by these things, you're not, you know, you may feel stupid, but you're so not stupid. It's not that you've done particularly anything wrong. So you shouldn't feel ashamed of it. You should report it. They wouldn't do these things unless they worked. So you are not alone. You are not stupid. They're very sophisticated attacks by very, very smart people, and they work. So report it, report it, report it.
Exactly. So what do you do if you found out you have actually fallen victim to one of these scams? If you've pressed the 7, if you've given details that you perhaps shouldn't have given, what's the next step?
The next step is pick up the phone to the Gardaí and call the Gardaí and report it in. And unfortunately, they're fairly used to these calls at the moment because, as I said, you're not alone. But the worst thing you could do is be embarrassed about it and hide your head under the pillow and just hope it all goes away, because it won't. Because they'll keep going and milk you for as much as they can possibly get out of you.
Do we
So
know?
you need to report and stop it.
Do we know yet what sort of monies are being scammed out of people? Is it little and often, or is it big sums? Have you heard anecdotally of anything?
It's a variation. It's a variation of things. Some of them are just after information that they can reuse to do other things. Some of them are after, you know, the straightforward put in your bank account details here. Like I've heard of accounts being totally cleared out. You know, and accounts could have €1,000 in them. They could have €100,000 in them. You know, like even in when it comes to corporations and companies, there's a thing called spear phishing, where they specifically target like the CEO of a company, because they know they'll have, you know, the permissions to authorize large transactions. And there have been transactions fraudulently sent across for hundreds of thousands of euro. You know, it's a quick Google search, you'll come across dozens and dozens and dozens of examples of this.
What's been done to combat this at the moment? I mean, because it's getting more serious by the day.
It is. I suppose one thing is that, in my experience anyway, firstly, these things tend to come in waves. So it'll die down again after a while, or it should die down again if the past is any indicator. A number of years ago, we went through something similar where, again, I got calls, my parents got calls from, you know, somebody purporting to be from Microsoft, who they noticed a problem on my PC, and, you know, they talked me through it. All I had to give them was the password and the IP address. You know, and it sounded very similar. Everyone got one of those, I don't know, was it 4 or 5 years ago? They died away. Okay, so because the biggest thing we can do to combat this is actually public awareness, and giving people the knowledge to know, no, hang up, I'm not trusting you. If it's really important, if it is really something to do with your PPS number or the revenue or something like that, they'll contact you in other ways. They'll, you know what I mean? It won't be just a case of, well, here's one phone call, it's your only chance, you need to press 7 or else you're in deep trouble.
Yeah.
That's not the way they act. They won't contact you in that way. So the public education and making sure people are aware, that's the big thing we can do to fight it. Because in fairness to the Gardaí, they can only kind of do something once something has happened, because you can't block every number out there. You know, we have to be able to communicate. And even if they do start blocking it, which number are they blocking? Are they blocking the actual number at the end of it, or are they blocking the number that's coming in that's being used to mask the scammers?
Yeah, it's so confusing and so complicated. But I suppose that the fundamentals of all of this is passwords. We have to be very careful about our passwords and make sure they're not secure. Because I'm looking at people now on social media, and these memes are going around. Oh, what's the name of the street you were born in, and your mother's maiden name, and all these things are so obviously people looking to try and break your passwords to anything. And people are being so wide open. I mean, what's your poor name? The name of your first pet and the name of your father. I mean, it's bonkers. But like, what should we be doing with our passwords to make sure that they are impenetrable?
That's a great thing. Okay, so there's a number of things, right? And they're not overly onerous, but we really as a nation, and we have to start taking the whole information security thing seriously. It's as serious as putting an alarm in your house, locking the front door, making sure the windows are closed. That's how serious you need to take it, or even more so, because if, at least if somebody breaks into your house, you'd probably know they've broken in. You might know they've
Yeah.
broken in to your digital world. So first thing, if I explain just a little bit, if I don't send everyone to sleep, but just a little bit of what the hackers actually do.
We've about 30 seconds here to go with this. No pressure.
Okay, I'll skip on from that.
Yeah.
Right, so in a bite size,
Yeah.
So the first thing is, don't use the same password or passphrase for every single application or every single account that you have. There's going to be a small number of accounts, like for example your email account, which are very, very important. Have a passphrase for that email account that's totally separate, and because you might be doing everything well, but the applications you're using, who's to say that company hasn't been hacked? And
Yeah.
that email, those passwords aren't being sent out there. The second thing is, I use the word passphrase. Use a passphrase, because the longer it is, the harder it is to hack. But we find those difficult to remember. So why not take the first line out of a chapter of your favorite book, a shannuckle, something like that. Use that as your passphrase. And if you can, last one, use two-factor authentication. Get a little app on your phone. That means you don't just have to have the passphrase. You also have to have the app that gives you that second factor of authentication. So even if they get the passphrase, you're still very much protected.
Right. Listen, Paul, we're after going way over in this, but it's fascinating and very important to know these things. No problem at all. Listen, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Now we'll take a quick break. We'll be back here with the Girls in 3.